In the quiet halls of Washington, D.C., a government shutdown had left the great White House empty and silent. But not for long. From a forgotten broom closet, a yellow tide of denim-clad chaos emerged. It was the Minions, Kevin, Stuart, and Bob, leading the charge, saw the empty Oval Office not as a crisis, but as the world's biggest, best testo playground. But wait, what's that giant red button on the president's desk? Bob, with his teddy bear, Tim, clutched tight, couldn't resist. His eyes widened, his little finger reaching out. What could possibly go wrong if a minion pushed a big red button? With a loud asterisk, boink asterisk, the button is pressed. Alarms blared, lights flashed, and a giant map of the world lit up like a Christmas tree. The minions stared, their one or two eyes wide with a mix of terror and glee. They had just accidentally initiated something called Operation Global Banana Distribution. Suddenly, every phone in the world started ringing off the hook. The minions, now self-proclaimed leaders, tried to answer the phones. "Bello, Papoy," Stuart shouted into a receiver, which he was holding upside down. On the other end, confused world leaders were trying to understand why the U.S. president was demanding 10,000 tons of bananas. But the real chaos was just beginning, as a strange rumbling started deep beneath the White House. The rumbling grew louder. A secret elevator, one no one knew existed, burst open in the middle of the floor. Out poured hundreds more minions, armed with spatulas, rubber chickens, and a very determined-looking vacuum cleaner. They were the Minion Secret Service, and they looked ready for anything. But what were they protecting the White House from? A pigeon had landed on the windowsill. "To the Minion Secret Service! This was a major security breach." A dozen minions formed a pyramid, wobbling precariously to try and shoo it away. They ended up tumbling into a priceless vase, sending it crashing to the floor. The pigeon just cooed, completely unimpressed. But the noise they made woke something up in the presidential kitchen. Down in the kitchen, a forgotten state-of-the-art waffle iron, programmed for presidential breakfasts, sputtered to life. It smelled the minions' banana-scented panic and began producing waffles at an alarming rate. Waffles flew out like frisbees, covering the floor, sticking to the ceiling. The minions had a new mission: control the rogue waffle iron. But could they stop it before the entire White House was buried in breakfast food? Stuart, ever the rock star, grabbed 2 spatulas and charged at the waffle iron like a knight facing a dragon. He whacked it, he poked it, he even tried to serenade it with his ukulele. The waffle iron responded by launching a supersized, extra syrupy waffle directly at his face. Splat! Stuart was down, and the waffle situation was officially out of control. Just when they thought it couldn't get any weirder, the national turkey, pardoned last Thanksgiving, trotted into the Oval Office. Seeing the chaos, the turkey let out a mighty gobble. The minions, who had never seen such a magnificent bird, stopped everything. They bowed down, convinced this was their new king. They brought in a tiny crown made of paper. King Gobble Gobble had arrived. But King Gobble Gobble was a demanding ruler. He pecked at the world map, his beak landing squarely on Antarctica. The minions understood immediately. Their king wanted ice, not just a few cubes, but all of it. They scrambled to the giant presidential freezer, their minds set on a new, frosty mission. What would happen if they tried to ship the entire White House ice supply to the South Pole? They managed to overload the White House's main power grid trying to power a giant ice-making machine. The lights flickered and died. The waffle iron fell silent. The alarms stopped. The entire building was plunged into darkness, except for the glow of Bob's nightlight. The minions huddled together, their gibberish whispers echoing in the dark. A strange scratching sound was coming from the walls. The scratching got louder. From a hidden vent, a tiny paw emerged, then a whiskered nose. It was the first mouse of the United States. And he was not happy about the new tenants. He scurried out, squeaking defiantly at the hundreds of yellow invaders. For the minions, this was a declaration of war. An epic battle for control of the White House was about to begin between the minions and a single, very grumpy mouse. The battle raged. The minions built tiny catapults out of spoons to launch cheese puffs. The mouse, quick and clever, dodged every shot, leading them on a wild chase through secret passages and ventilation shafts. The chase led them straight to the press briefing room. Kevin, seeing the podium and cameras, had a brilliant, terrible idea. It was time for a press conference. Kevin stood at the podium, clearing his throat. He tapped the microphone, which screeched with feedback. He then delivered a passionate 10-minute speech entirely in Minionese, complete with dramatic gestures and pointing at a chart covered in banana drawings. The world's news channels, which had hacked the feed, broadcast it live. Nobody understood a word, but everyone was captivated. What was he announcing? Inspired by Kevin's speech, the other minions decided to pass their first law. They scribbled on a giant piece of parchment with crayons. Their new law was simple and direct. From now on, all currency was to be replaced with bananas. The official language was now Miniony, and Tuesdays were officially Wear a Silly Hat Day. They were signing it into law with a rubber stamp shaped like a foot. Suddenly, the front doors of the White House burst open. A tour group, thinking the shutdown was over, walked in. They froze, staring at the scene. Minions sliding down banisters, a turkey wearing a paperclip crown, waffles stuck to the ceiling, and a single mouse chasing a minion with a tiny fork. The tourists slowly backed away, unsure if they were dreaming. But one minion had spotted their shiny cameras. The minions loved the cameras. They started posing, doing flips, and showing off their Bainanarchy law. The tourists, recovering from their shock, started snapping pictures and recording videos. Within minutes, #MinionWhiteHouse was trending worldwide. The minions were global superstars. But their fame was about to attract some very unwanted attention from a long-forgotten satellite. High above the Earth, a dormant military satellite, designed to detect unusual energy signatures, whirred to life. The sheer chaotic energy of hundreds of minions and a waffle overload had triggered it. Its new directive: investigate the source of the chaos. A bright red laser dot appeared on the White House lawn. The minions stared at it, mesmerized. What was this new red plaything? They chased the red dot all over the lawn, like a pack of puppies. They had no idea it was a targeting laser from an orbital spacecraft. The satellite, misinterpreting their playful antics as a threat, began its landing sequence. A massive shadow fell over the White House as a sleek, black spaceship descended from the sky. The minions stopped playing and looked up, their jaws dropping. Who was inside? The spaceship's ramp lowered with a hiss. Out walked, not aliens, but a team of stern-faced government officials in sharp suits, who had been recalled from an off-world retreat for this very emergency. They stared, utterly speechless, at the banana-loving, gibberish-speaking, waffle-covered chaos that had taken over their government. One man slowly took off his sunglasses. The lead official looked at Kevin, who was holding the Bainanarchy law. He looked at King Gobblegabbo on his makeshift throne. He looked at the waffle still dripping syrup from a portrait of Abraham Lincoln. He sighed, pinched the bridge of his nose, and said, "All right. Who's in charge here?" All the minions immediately pointed at Bob. Bob just hugged his teddy bear and smiled. The great minion government shutdown was over, but the cleanup was just beginning. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more adventures.